Welcome to True Echo, where the stories we tell aren't just powerful, they're unforgettable. Each tale blends truth with possibility to reveal something deeper about who we are, what we stand for, and what we're willing to believe. Today's story is about a quiet boy, a laughing cop, and the moment a father's shadow stepped into the light and changed everything. Willow Creek was the kind of town that looked like it had nothing to hide. Sidewalks scrubbed clean. Lawns clipped into suburban submission. The breeze always carried something sweet, lemon polish, cut grass, sometimes a whisper of jasmine from a nearby porch. But for Malik Carter, every detail in that neighborhood was a quiet test. He wasn't supposed to run. Wasn't supposed to shout. Wasn't supposed to exist louder than the white noise of expectations. After football practice that afternoon, Malik walked the same path he always did. Cleats in his bag, helmet swinging by the strap, eyes forward, shoulders back. His father taught him that. Let them see your dignity before they try to take it. He didn't know that today would be the day someone tried to. The police cruiser came slow around the corner. Not rushing. Not chasing. Just drifting like a shark circling calm waters. The tires crunched lightly over the leaves scattered near the curb. Inside the car, mirrored sunglasses caught the late sun. A buzz-cut jaw tightened with vague authority. Officer Kincaid. New to town. Already known for stopping the wrong kids on the right sidewalks. "Hey kid," King called, casual in tone but not in intent. Malik paused, turned with that careful kind of grace his parents had drilled into him. "Yes, sir?" "You live around here?" the officer asked. "Yes, sir. Just heading home from practice." "Football, huh? Got any ID on you?" Malik's hand went to his bag. Slow. Narrated. "Yes, sir. Just my school ID." His fingers trembled slightly but his voice didn't. He handed over the laminated card. Kincaid read it aloud like it was a joke. "Malik Carter. Birch Avenue. That over by the lake." His smile stretched like cheap plastic. "Big houses over there." Malik said nothing. He didn't flinch. He had learned that silence, when held right, could speak volumes. "What's your dad do?" King asked. Malik looked him square in the eyes. Not angry. Not nervous. "He works in national security." The laugh that followed wasn't casual. It was loud. Cruel. Disbelieving. "National security? That's a new one," King said between barks of laughter. "You mean he's a secret agent? Top secret? Works with the president?" He wiped his eyes like he'd been told the best joke of his week. Neighbors were starting to look now. Curtains twitched. One porch light flicked on early. King leaned out of the car, voice louder. "Come on, kid. What's he really do? Bag groceries? Work nights somewhere?" Malik stood firm. "He works in national security." King's smirk faltered for just a second. That second was everything. Because it said, maybe this isn't a lie. Maybe this is bigger than me. But King wasn't the type to back off. He waved down another cruiser. "Hey, get this. This kid says his dad's in government security. Probably shakes hands with the president on weekends." Across the street, a girl named Zoe Bradley filmed quietly behind a tree. Her phone was steady. Her focus sharper than the adults fumbling for laughs. And Malik? He just stood there, alone in a town that only knew how to smile at him from a distance. This wasn't about what he'd done. It never had been. It was about what people like Officer King thought he could never be. The house smelled like furniture polish and warm pears. Malik slipped through the door silently, dropping his bag by the stairs like always. But the silence wasn't just the quiet of an empty foyer, it was loaded. That's like the house itself was waiting for his mother to notice. She already had. In the kitchen, Monique Carter stood by the counter, slicing pears into soft petals on a porcelain plate. Her hospital scrubs were replaced by a cream blouse and slacks, the kind of outfit that looked calm but functioned like armor. She didn't look up. "How was practice?" she asked, her voice too even. Malik bit into a slice. It was crisp, sweet, and suddenly hard to swallow. "Fine," he said. She turned. "Try again." He hesitated, then looked her in the eye. "I got stopped. Cop followed me from school." The knife paused mid-slice. "Did he touch you?" "No. Just asked questions. A beat. About where I lived. What Dad does." That made her freeze. Malik saw the change in her stance, the subtle shift of weight, the angle of her hand placing the knife down with the blade away from them. The look in her eyes wasn't fear. It was calculation. Like a nurse prepping for emergency trauma. "And what did you say?" she asked. "I told him the truth." "Malik." I know. I didn't go into detail. I just said he works in national security." He laughed in my face. Her mouth tightened. He said what? He made it loud. Jokes about you. About Dad being a ghost. Said kids like me don't have fathers at home. The air grew thinner. Then Monique stepped forward and placed a warm hand on the side of his face. You did what you thought was right, she said. But we've talked about this. There's a reason we keep your father's work quiet. I just didn't want him thinking Dad left us. I know. There was no yelling. No panic. Just a stillness that was somehow louder than a scream. Monique pulled him in for a hug. Usually Malik would squirm out. This time he didn't. Later that night, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, Malik fell asleep upstairs. But Monique sat in the den, laptop open but forgotten. Her mind wasn't on hospital emails or tomorrow's shift. It was on Kincaid, and what he might already be whispering. Quietly, she walked to the hallway desk and unlocked the bottom drawer. Inside was a matte black phone. No apps, no contacts, just one number hard-coded into the system. The kind of device that doesn't make calls. It sends signals. She typed a message. Contact initiated by local LE. Protocol review recommended. The reply came in under 30 seconds. Received. Status, observing. She locked the phone away, her fingers trembling. Not because she was afraid. Because she knew exactly what might happen next. Across town, Officer Kincaid sat in his patrol car with the laptop open, squinting at files that didn't make sense. Malik's school record? Cling. His mother? Registered nurse with hospital admin credentials. No criminal history. No red flags. But Jonathan Carter? That's where the trail went cold. Marriage certificate. Mortgage. Son's birth certificate. But no employer. No tax filings in the last decade. No photos. No online presence. It was like the man existed only as a theory. King didn't like theories. He liked facts he could bully into submission. So he dug deeper, into restricted law enforcement systems using credentials he wasn't authorized to use. He searched military records, veteran logs, even backdoored into old Army archives using credentials from a buddy who'd once taught cyberforensics at the academy. And that's when he saw it. Access denied. Classified. Clearance required. Not no record found. Not invalid request. Just a firm electronic wall labeled, "You don't belong here." He tried again. Different portal. Different method. Same result. Then came the chill. The kind that starts in your spine and leaks outward like a cold sweat. Kincaid closed the laptop and stared out the window at the Carter residence down the block. The porch light glowed faintly. Curtains drawn. Too calm. It wasn't just that Jonathan Carter might be someone dangerous. It was the dawning realization that the boy hadn't been lying. He'd been warning him. Meanwhile, in a quiet bedroom lined with photos and Polaroids, Zoe Bradley replayed her footage. Again. And again. The moment Officer King leaned out of his window and laughed. The flash of tension on Malik's face. The neighbors peeking out from behind curtains. The tone of voice that wasn't law enforcement, it was mockery wrapped in power. She didn't post it. Not yet. But she saved it in a locked folder on her laptop. The same folder her father, Marcus Bradley, a civil rights attorney, taught her to use. He'd told her early on, if you're going to film the truth, be ready for what comes after. Tonight she wasn't afraid. She was curious. So she searched. Not for Malik. Not for King. She searched the one name that had made a grown cop laugh in the middle of the street. Jonathan Carter. And as she dug page after page, past the usual clutter of the internet and into archived leaks, whistleblower forums and obscure military documents, she found it. A redacted mission report from over 8 years ago. Only one full name remained. Field Command Jake Carter. Extraction Protocol. 0 civilian exposure. The timeline matched Malik's 8th birthday. The same year he said his dad missed the party for an overseas conference. Zoe leaned back from the screen, heart pounding. She didn't know what this meant yet. But she knew one thing. Malik wasn't lying. And someone in Willow Creek was about to learn what happens when you push the wrong ghost too far. The next morning, Malik sat on the edge of his bed, tying his shoelaces with a methodical calm that didn't match his heartbeat. The house was still, too still. He could hear his mother downstairs, moving like she always did, precise and deliberate, but there was something different now. Something tighter in the air. He walked down to breakfast expecting the usual, eggs, toast, maybe fruit. Instead, Monique was at the counter, phone in one hand, eyes scanning something on her hospital-issued tablet. She looked up, met his eyes. "Eat," she said, motioning to a bowl of oatmeal already waiting. "And don't take the long way home today." Come straight back. Why? Her look was enough. Malik nodded, sitting down without another question. He didn't need to be told that whatever was coming wasn't over. Across town, Officer Kincaid wasn't in uniform. He sat on his apartment floor, bourbon in hand, eyes bloodshot and locked on his laptop. The message from his contact still hovered on the screen. You didn't hear this from me. That name is flagged. High clearance. Top tier. Active operative. Walk away. But King didn't walk away. He never had. Instead, he called in another favor, an old contact who once moonlighted for a Black Ops-adjacent private firm. Someone who could pull files if they really wanted to. He uploaded every photo he had, surveillance shots of the Carter home, records he'd taken from unofficial interviews with the neighbors, and most importantly, the image of the box he'd found in the shed behind their house. A box filled with international currency, coded documents, and a photograph he couldn't stop thinking about. 4 men, desert fatigues, barely visible faces. But one stood out. Jonathan Carter. Sharp eyes. Stance of a man who didn't flinch, even when the world tilted. King stared at the photo like it might blink. He didn't know what scared him more, that this man was real, or that this man had allowed him to get this close. Malik passed Zoe in the hallway between classes. She was waiting by the vending machines, but her eyes locked onto his. We need to talk. He stopped warily. About what? I did some digging, she said. About your dad. Malik's throat tightened. Zoe didn't press. She pulled out her phone, tapped once and showed him the screenshot. The redacted file. The name Jake Carter. Malik read it, then met her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because truth matters. And people like him, she said, nodding toward a group of officers posted outside the school's front entrance, aren't going to stop just because you were polite. He didn't answer. Also, she added, lowering her voice, he's watching your house. Malik blinked. What? My dad saw him yesterday. Unmarked car. Same guy. Parked 3 houses down from you. He's watching. Malik didn't say thank you. He didn't need to. His eyes said enough. Don't walk home today, Zoe said as he turned to leave. Just, don't. But Malik did. Because some things needed to be faced. He took the straightest path possible, like his mom told him, ignoring every instinct to check behind him. He made it to the last block before his house when the world went silent. No lawn mowers. No dogs barking. No breeze. Then came the quick shuffle of rubber soles behind him. Hey. A hand gripped his arm hard. He spun ready to shout, but the voice came fast and low. You're coming with me, Officer Kincaid snapped, not in uniform, his grip too tight for pretense. Now. What the? You're not on duty. You can't. Shut up. Your father's a threat. Your cover. And I'm going to prove it. Before Malik could shout again, King shoved him into the back of a dark sedan. No police markings, no dashcam, no badge. Just tinted windows and the stench of desperation. From across the street, Zoe Bradley was already live. She had followed her gut. Now her phone captured everything, Malik yelling, struggling, King slamming the door shut. Her stream pinged, 1 viewer, then 10, then over 100. Parents, classmates, even her father. She whispered into the mic. He just took Malik. No uniform. No backup. I'm sending the feed out. And she did. To the school board. The local paper. The mayor's office. And to the private contact listed on a thumb drive in her father's just-in-case drawer. A number tagged only, for Carter. In the Carter home, the kitchen was quiet. Jonathan Carter stood by the counter, halfway through prepping dinner. The knife paused mid-chop. Monique entered, phone in hand, her voice strained. It's live. It's Malik. He's gone. Jonathan didn't speak. He moved to the den, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small remote. Tracker. Monique asked. Jonathan nodded. In his watch. Activating now. The screen lit up, a pulsing red dot blinking steadily. Abandoned train depot 3 miles out. That's not a precinct, Monique whispered. No, Jonathan said. It's not. He turned toward the door. Wait, Monique said, breath tight. Are you calling for backup? No, he said again. They'll come once it's already begun. In the shadows, past the neat fences and waving flags of Willow Creek, a storm was coming. And for the first time it would not be quiet. The train depot loomed like a skeleton from a forgotten time, rusted metal bones, shattered windows, and echoes that had long since buried the last whistle of commerce. It was the kind of place no one remembered until something went wrong. Tonight something had. Inside, under the flicker of a single overhead bulb, Malik Carter sat zip-tied to a metal chair. His palms throbbed. His wrists burned. But his eyes never dropped. Officer Kincaid paced in front of him like a caged animal, the lines in his face no longer drawn from duty, they were cracked from obsession. "You know what your father is, don't you?" King barked. "He's not some family man. He's a ghost. A cover. A liar." Malik stayed quiet. "I found it all," King continued, the words trembling with the desperation of a man who was trying to convince himself more than his captive. "The box. The files. The photos. He's not supposed to exist. That's the proof." Malik tilted his head slightly. "And yet, here I am." That struck a nerve. King stormed forward, grabbed Malik by the collar, then yanked back, pacing again. "You think this is funny? You think your silence protects you? I'll make sure the whole country sees what kind of monster your father really is. I'll drag the truth out of him if I have to set this town on fire to do it." The words spilled out unhinged, wild. Malik didn't flinch. He heard his father's voice again in his mind. "If you're ever taken, don't try to outfight them. Let them underestimate you. They will." Malik leaned forward slightly, calm. "You don't even know what you're doing, do you?" That's when the door creaked open. Boots echoed on concrete. And Jonathan Carter stepped into the half-light. No combat gear. No weapon. Just a fitted black jacket and a steady calm that dropped the temperature of the room by 10 degrees. King spun around, his hand flying to the pistol holstered at his hip. "Stay back," he snapped. "Don't come any closer." Jonathan kept walking. "I said stop." He did, 5 feet from King. His hands were raised slightly, palms open. "If I wanted to hurt you," Jonathan said evenly, "you'd already be down." King's hand shook around the grip of the gun. "You're bluffing." Jonathan didn't blink. "Are you willing to bet your life on that?" For a moment, time folded in on itself. King's chest heaved. Malik sat perfectly still. The tension in the air felt like it might explode. Then the warehouse door creaked again. 2 men stepped through, dressed in tactical black. No patches, no insignia, their movements precise, measured. They said nothing. They didn't have to. King faltered. "What? Who the hell are they?" Jonathan didn't look away. "Back up." One of the operatives moved forward, placing a small drone on the floor. It beeped and began scanning the area, cataloging objects, mapping surfaces, capturing audio and video feeds directly to a secure cloud. "This entire location is now under observation," Jonathan said. "Every word you say is evidence. Every move you make is recorded." "You think I care?" King shouted, swinging the gun wildly. "This is bigger than chain of command. He's a weapon, living in our town." Jonathan's voice didn't rise. It stayed cold. Controlled. "You didn't take Malik because of who I am. You took him because you needed someone to overpower. Someone to make small. And now you're the one outnumbered." King's face twisted with rage. He raised the gun, angling toward Malik. Everything happened at once. Jonathan surged forward, too fast for the eye to follow, and knocked the weapon clear with a deflecting strike to the wrist. The pistol clattered to the floor. King threw a desperate punch, but Jonathan let it come, sidestepped, redirected the force, and brought King to the ground with the efficiency of a man who had done this 1,000 times and forgotten most of them. No struggle. No show of dominance. Just cold, perfect technique. King lay gasping on the concrete. Jonathan leaned down, his voice a whisper. "You chose fear. You chose force. Now the very system you pretended to protect will decide who you really are." The operatives moved in, zip-tying King with mechanical precision. They said nothing. Didn't look at Malik. They weren't there to impress. They were there to end it. Jonathan walked over to his son, knelt and cut the restraints. Malik rubbed his wrists, his breath finally uneven. "You okay?" Jonathan asked. "Yeah," Malik said, voice hoarse. "I knew you'd come." Jonathan looked at him long and hard. "You shouldn't have had to." Malik stood slowly, unsteady. "I told him you worked in national security. I thought I was helping. I thought." Jonathan stopped him. "You did what you thought was right. That's never wrong." Malik nodded, silent. As the sirens grew louder in the distance, flashing red and blue lights bleeding into the warehouse walls, Jonathan turned to one of the operatives. "Vanished," he said. And just like that, the men disappeared, slipping out through shadows like they'd never existed. Minutes later, the Willow Creek police force stormed the depot. What they found was a suspended officer, handcuffed and raving, surrounded by hard evidence, a minor safely recovered, and a man calmly handing over a formal statement. Jonathan Carter didn't raise his voice. He didn't declare anything. He just told the truth. And for once in Willow Creek that was enough. For 3 days, Willow Creek became something it had never been before. A headline. Zoe Bradley's stream, initially shared with classmates and a few concerned parents, had exploded overnight. National outlets picked it up before sunrise. By morning, the town's name trended on every social platform. The title alone sparked outrage. Suspended officer abducts black teen, father's secret identity exposed. News vans lined Birch Avenue. Helicopter shots captured quiet homes with manicured lawns that suddenly seemed too perfect, too staged. The Carter house, once politely ignored by neighbors, became a focal point of curiosity, speculation, and in some circles, silent awe. Jonathan Carter stayed inside. Not because he was hiding, but because he knew that mystery was often more powerful than explanation. Inside the police station, chaos reigned. Chief Holloway slammed his fist on his desk when he saw the video footage. Kincaid dragging Malik into a car, off-duty, weapon drawn, spouting delusions. The stream cut to Jonathan Carter walking into that warehouse like a ghost out of a classified dossier and dismantling everything without violence. "This is going federal," Holloway muttered. And it did. By noon, agents from 3-letter agencies no one could quite name met behind closed doors with the mayor, the chief, and select legal counsel. What they discussed didn't make the news. But by the end of the day, Officer Kincaid had been formally charged with kidnapping, impersonating an officer, and unlawful restraint. His police certifications were revoked pending trial. The town's police department was placed under temporary internal review. And Jonathan Carter was officially never mentioned. At school, Malik walked through hallways that felt like movie sets. People who once glanced past him now made space. Not out of fear but respect. Curiosity. Some even approached him quietly saying, "Hey man, I saw the video," or, "Your dad, that was wild." He didn't bask in it. He didn't brag. He simply nodded and kept walking. In the corner of the cafeteria, Zoe sat with her laptop. She'd been offered 3 internship spots, a journalism scholarship, and a quiet thank you from a federal official who showed up at her house in a rental car with no plates. She turned them all down. "Some stories," she told her father, "don't need to be monetized. They need to breathe." At Willow Creek Town Hall, Mayor Regina Hale stood in front of a crowd larger than any she'd ever addressed. Parents, teachers, community leaders, some with questions, others just to witness. When Jonathan Carter took the stage beside her, the room fell into reverent silence. No uniform. No medals. No explanations. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't deliver a speech rehearsed for applause. He simply told the story. Of a son who stood tall in the face of power. Of a town forced to look at itself. Of silence as a form of protection, and sometimes, of complicity. "What happened to my son wasn't unique," he said. "It was just seen. Captured. And that visibility changes things." He paused. "I'm not here to assign blame. I'm here to remind us that dignity is a choice. One we either offer, or deny." The applause wasn't loud. But it was long. Back at home, Jonathan, Monique, and Malik sat around the dinner table. No cameras, no questions, no noise. Just warmth. Jonathan slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a photo. Malik, age 8. Rope in hand. Backyard sun slanting across his face. A moment of pure innocence. On the back, written in Jonathan's careful block script. "Some skills you show the world. Others you carry quietly until the moment they're needed." Malik swallowed hard. "I almost forgot this day." Jonathan nodded. "I didn't." Monique reached out, her hand on both of theirs. "We're not just safe," she said. "We're seen now." Across town, Kincaid sat in a secured facility, staring through barred windows, haunted by his own spiral. He had believed he was in control. He had believed the worst thing a black teenager could say was, "My dad is in special forces." He hadn't realized the worst thing wasn't that it was a lie. It was that it was true. And that he'd laughed in the face of something far bigger than him. Now the only echo left for him was the memory of being quietly outmaneuvered by a man who didn't need to prove anything. Back in Willow Creek, things slowly returned to normal. But it wasn't the same normal. People waved more often. Eyes lingered longer, but not with suspicion, with thought. Conversations were slower. Questions came from a place of curiosity, not condescension. And just 4 blocks from Town Hall, a new sign was posted on an unassuming brick building. The Carter Academy for Leadership and Resilience. No ads. No online profile. Just a plaque that read, "For the quiet ones. For the underestimated." Rain drizzled lightly over the town of Willow Creek, muting everything into a hush that felt like reverence. It was graduation day at Westill High. The gym was filled wall to wall. Folding chairs creaked under the weight of family and community. Phones were held aloft, eyes misted. Programs fluttered like paper wings in nervous hands. But everyone waited for one thing, one person. Malik Carter. When he stepped onto the stage, he wore no cords or sashes, just a standard Navy cap and gown. But something about his presence, the way he stood, the way he didn't rush, commanded more respect than valedictorian titles or honor rolls ever could. He didn't carry notes, didn't fumble for words. Instead, he let the silence settle around him before speaking. When I was younger, Malik said, voice clear but steady, I used to think strength was about being loud, yelling the right words at the right time, being seen, being heard. A few heads in the crowd nodded, especially those who had seen the viral stream weeks earlier. But I learned something different. I watched a man I love stand in a storm and never raise his voice. I watched him protect without needing praise. I watched him win without ever needing to fight. In the back row, Zoe Bradley recorded with practiced grace. Her father beside her placed a quiet hand on her shoulder. Malik continued. My father once told me, in a room full of wolves, be the quiet storm. I didn't understand what that meant at first. But now I do. He paused, scanning the crowd. Because sometimes real strength isn't noise. It's stillness. It's the choice to carry dignity, even when others try to take it from you. The applause began slowly, like a heartbeat unsure of itself. But then it rose not into a roar, but a rhythm. Steady. Unshakable. The kind of sound that meant more than clapping ever could. Jonathan Carter, seated near the front beside Monique, didn't stand. He didn't need to. His eyes, usually sharp and ever scanning, gleamed with quiet pride. He had seen his son walk through fire without flinching. Now he watched him rise through the smoke. That night, at home, the Carters sat down to dinner without ceremony. No reporters. No tension. Just the clink of forks, the warmth of candlelight, and the occasional laugh as Monique teased Jonathan about oversalting the beans again. When dessert came, Jonathan pushed a second envelope toward Malik. This one was older, yellowing around the edges. Inside was a second photo, different from the one with the rope. This one showed a young Jonathan, maybe early 20s, dressed in nondescript fatigues, crouched in a desert encampment, a small child's drawing folded and stuck in the strap of his gear vest. Malik squinted. Is that mine? Jonathan nodded. Sent it to me before a mission. You were 5. Drew a house with a tree. You kept it? Always. He took a slow breath. Because no matter how far I went, you were the reason I came back. Monique reached over, squeezed Jonathan's hand. Malik, normally quiet in moments like this, leaned forward. You know, he said with a slight smirk, most kids' dads don't fight off rogue cops and disappear into shadows. Jonathan smiled back. Most kids' dads don't have sons who keep their heads when everything goes sideways. There was no fanfare. No medals. Just a family who had weathered the storm, and chosen to grow from it. Meanwhile, across the state, Kincaid sat in a state facility. His trial loomed. He no longer shouted about deep state conspiracies, or shadow agents. Those ramblings had cost him what little credibility he had left. Now he sat mostly in silence. What haunted him most wasn't what he saw in that warehouse. It was how completely he had underestimated them all. Not just Jonathan, but Malik. And silence. In a government server farm deep underground, a secured terminal blinked to life. A single update populated the screen. Asset remains in place. Observation stable. Threat neutralized. Community reform underway. Ghost returned to ground. Then just below. Mission status, successful. But the most important line wasn't for the analysts. It was written for the field operative who chose to stay. Continue training next generation. Discretion remains priority. Jonathan Carter closed the file. And for the first time in years he allowed himself to exhale. Because some legacies are passed through ceremony. And others are whispered in the quiet between storms. It had been 4 months since the warehouse. 4 months since the stream that changed everything. Since Willow Creek's perfect silence cracked like a porcelain vase dropped in slow motion. But instead of shattering the town, it exposed what had always been underneath. Change didn't thunder in like a protest. It arrived slowly. Like Malik said, like a quiet storm. At the Carter Academy for Leadership and Resilience, enrollment had tripled. No ads, no press releases, just word of mouth, trust, and curiosity. The academy wasn't like other programs. There were no trophies on the walls. No slogans about grit or toughness. Just a long, low-ceilinged room with padded floors, clean mats, and silence punctuated by calm instruction. Jonathan taught 2 classes a week. The rest were taught by those who had nothing to prove. Veterans, therapists, educators, every one of them handpicked. Every one of them a part of Jonathan's quiet web. A network not for combat, but for composure, for clarity, for purpose. Each student who came in expecting a drill sergeant found something else entirely. A question. Who are you when no one's watching? Malik often stopped by after school. Not as a student. Not as a teacher. Just as someone who got it. He became the quiet center of the room when he entered. Not by force. Just by presence. Kids who used to laugh at his silence now listened when he spoke. One afternoon, a new student, 10 maybe 11, asked, "Is it true your dad's a spy?" Malik didn't smile. But his eyes did. "No," he said. "He's my dad." Zoe Bradley published her first piece in the Atlantic Monthly's youth section. A feature titled, "The Shadow Between Law and Power, What We Don't See." She didn't name Jonathan. Didn't name Malik. But those who read carefully knew. The piece ended with one line. Real strength is not hidden. It is restrained. Her byline sparked a new offer from Columbia. She said she'd think about it. In truth, she already knew her answer. But she had more to do here first. At the next Willow Creek Council meeting, Monique Carter stood at the podium. She wasn't addressing an injustice. She was introducing a proposal. A partnership between the Carter Academy and local schools, early intervention programs, emotional resilience training, mentoring. Not reform through punishment, but prevention through dignity. The room didn't clap loudly. But everyone stood. Even the ones who once whispered. At home, the Carter family rebuilt their routine, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. One Sunday afternoon, Malik stood beside his father in the backyard. They were planting a tree. Not a metaphorical one. A real one. A Japanese maple that Monique picked out after her last shift at the hospital. Jonathan dug the hole. Malik lowered the root ball in. They covered it together. "So," Malik said, brushing soil from his palms, "you're really staying?" Jonathan nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "This is home. I thought your work was about disappearing." Jonathan looked at his son. "No," he said. "It was about protecting things that matter. And I finally realized, I can protect them better by being here." They stood together, side by side, as the wind rustled through the new leaves. Later that evening, Monique set out 3 plates at the dinner table. Candles flickered. Jazz played softly from the kitchen speaker. Jonathan took a slow breath. "I've been thinking about writing," he said suddenly. "Not everything. Just pieces." "Memoir?" Malik asked. "No names. No countries. Just lessons. Things I've learned, about control. About restraint. About what happens when a man spends too long in the shadows and forgets he's allowed to step into the light." Monique leaned her chin into her hand, smirking. "So now you're a philosopher." He shrugged. "Maybe." Malik laughed. "Can't wait for the first chapter. How not to break someone's arm at a PTA meeting." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. That was a clean takedown. And for a moment the only sound in the room was laughter. Elsewhere, behind a steel door in a federal facility, a sealed file was marked inactive. Carter, Jonathan, asset #12-004B. Another note followed. Subject deemed self-neutralizing. Value now legacy-based. Continue passive observation only. No engagement unless triggered. The file closed with a soft digital ping. And just like that, the last official record of Jonathan Carter went dark. But his presence? His impact? Was everywhere now. In the classrooms. In the conversations. In the way a town chose curiosity over judgment. Because this story was never really about a spy. It was about a boy who told the truth. A cop who refused to believe it. A father who walked out of the shadows not with rage, but with purpose. And a town that will never again mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes the loudest truth is the one spoken with calm resolve. Malik Carter didn't raise his voice. Jonathan Carter didn't carry a flag. But in their quiet strength they taught a whole town, and all of us, what it really means to stand tall. In a room full of wolves, be the quiet storm. If this story moved you, made you think, or reminded you of someone you know, don't let it end here. Subscribe to True Echo for more powerful stories that reveal the hidden strength in everyday lives. Comment below, would you have believed Malik? And share this with someone who needs a reminder. Silence isn't weakness. It's waiting for the right moment to speak.